Well, my name is Benjamin Legg, and this is my my intervention presentation for cognitive processing therapy. We will be interviewing or doing a presentation on a fictitious client whose name is Abby. 2 years ago, Abby was in a car accident, and she lost her best friend in it. And since then, she has suffered from severe anxiety. She no longer feels safe driving a vehicle and suffers severe anxiety attacks every time she has to drive a vehicle because she caused the accident. She also stays isolated because she now thinks that bad things happen to people close to her because of the accident, and also because she lost a friend that died from cancer in her childhood. So one of her unhealthy part of her unhealthy thinking is that every time somebody gets close to her, they die. This is going to be session number 4 with cognitive processing therapy. There are 12 sessions. Sessions 1 through 4 are pretty much talking with the client about what the therapy is, how their symptoms are related to the trauma, what all entails in the therapy, and items such as that. So we're going to start with session 4. Last session I gave her a homework assignment to take home. Cognitive processing therapy is along the same lines of cognitive behavioral therapy, and I'm going to refer to these throughout the video as CPT or CBT to be a little bit easier to understand. But it's pretty much the same thing as cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT. In CBT, the client actually talks to the therapist about the trauma, whereas in CPT, the client actually writes down the trauma, and then the therapist or social worker goes through the homework assignment and actually just goes through the thoughts and everything that's related to it instead of actually talking about the trauma. So here in a brief second, after the pause, we will have Abby here, and we will go through a brief session for session 4, demonstrating the social worker's competency of CPT. Hey Abby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, I guess. I'm still having a rough time finding a ride to work, though. I've had to miss a couple days because I couldn't find a ride. I don't like to drive anymore because I'm too scared.
Okay, well, before we get too far into our therapy session and everything, I just want to make sure you know how the last week's going. I know this is our 4th session together, and are you having any unsafe thoughts like hurting yourself or anything like that?
No, but my anxiety seems to be getting a little bit worse since I started treatment, and you said that might happen.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for clients to experience increased anxiety or increased symptoms in the beginning of the therapy because you're actually readdressing your therapy as compared to just isolating those thoughts or putting them aside as you were before. So now we're actually addressing them. So in the beginning of therapy and stuff, you're going to experience the symptoms a little bit more than what you originally had. But as I told you before, throughout time and throughout our therapy sessions, is going to be less and less. So our goal, I know we talked in the first session that your main goal was to actually bring down those symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks that you were experiencing, and you actually want to get back into driving a car by yourself without those panic attacks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I know I gave you some homework last week. It was to write down the trauma and everything like that. We're starting to get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of therapy and actually addressing your trauma. So were you able to get your homework done?
Yes. It was tough to think about those things again, but I got through it, and I hope that this will help me get rid of some of the anxiety.
Okay. I've got your homework and stuff right here, the written statement about your trauma and everything, and obviously with CPT we go through the written process because you went through CBT before and didn't like talking about it, so we're taking a sort of a less direct approach, and we're hoping this will give you the decrease in symptoms that we're wanting to see. So how do you think the trauma has impacted your life or changed your view about others or anything like that?
Well, I'm afraid to drive my car, and I feel like I can't get close to anyone because everyone dies that I get close to.
Okay, so what you're saying is throughout your trauma, correct me if I'm wrong, your trauma with the car accident and everything, because you're saying it was your fault, that everyone that you get close to dies. Is that correct?
Yes, it was my fault.
Okay, and I understand that, and I understand your frustration and your anxiety that you think that, especially you mentioned before that throughout your childhood friend that was close to you died kind of suddenly from cancer that they didn't know about. So you're thinking that everyone that gets close to you dies. So let me ask you a question about that, because I think it's sort of an untrue thought that you have in your head that everybody close to you does. Do you have any family members and stuff that you're close to?
Yes, I have several family members close.
Okay. So can you tell me just what this little section says here whenever you wrote about what happened in the vehicle real quick?
Well, I looked down to take a drink out of my cup holder, and I looked up and I was in the other lane, and we hit a car head on, and if I wouldn't have tried to get a drink, then we wouldn't have wrecked and she wouldn't have died. I think it happened because everyone that gets close to me dies. It doesn't matter what I would have done, she would have died somehow anyways because she was close to me.
Okay, so do you have family members or other people in your life that you're close to?
Yes, I suppose you could say not everyone that I'm close to dies, but it just seems that way.
Yeah, I think you're right on that track there, because just because two traumas happened to you with your friend dying when you were younger and this friend dying because you hit another vehicle head on, I think it's sort of an untrue statement that everyone that gets close to you dies. Have you had any other friends since then?
No.
You haven't? Okay, so are you staying sort of isolated?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so do you think it's safe for you to drive?
No. I'm dangerous driving. It caused an accident that killed my friend.
Well, I'd like to later in therapy address these untrue thoughts and go through that, because I think we can work towards you getting to where that you're not thinking that everyone that gets close to you dies, because I think we've already proven that even you have family members and stuff that gets close to you doesn't die. So we're going to fill out the worksheets and stuff here later in the session, and then I think here in session I want to give them to you as homework, and then whenever we come back for session 5, we'll address those and kind of get into those thoughts a little bit deeper. Sound all right?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Abby. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks.